Monty and the Pharaoh.
Duh. I'm having one fun with Monty and the Pharaoh, and I'm gonna put him in a crossface chicken, and he's gonna go down right now. Yeah.
You know, you guys are crazy. And you know what?
He knows us.
I love it.
Thank you.
I love it.
Long Island's #1 pro wrestler broadcast, Monty the Pharaoh, produced out of here at Indie Music TV. And we're welcoming our special guest, Mr. Ranger Ross. How are you, sir?
I am doing so good I can't stand it.
Oh my, I got to tell you, you are built like a brick. I can't believe, I still, he came in here, guys, and I was like, this guy's in Tony Atlas shape. Holy, I've never seen something like this. This guy is in great shape. How are you keeping yourself in such great shape?
He works out 15 minutes a day.
15 minutes, that's it.
How is this possible?
You can save a bunch of money by switching to Geico in 15 minutes. You can work out in 15 minutes.
Wow.
So how do you pull this off then? Explain. What happens in this 15 minutes? Like, Pornhub, like on super fast mode? I mean, what do you do in 15 minutes?
Well, I do like one day I'll do chest, one day I'll do arms, one day I'll do back, one day I'll do legs.
Wow.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
And the diet?
Well, I don't eat red meat.
Okay.
It slows down my cat-like reflexes.
Okay.
I got cat-like reflexes.
Cat-like.
Okay.
Cat-like reflexes.
At our age, we're like, not cat though, right? We're more like
Caterpillar?
the caterpillar. Yeah, that might be right.
That was
That's why it's the start of the show.
That was good. Oh, man.
Boy.
Caterpillar.
Army Ranger. Elite. Right? I'm a former Army man myself. Much respect to airborne Rangers who, God knows what you did, but can you tell people what you did as an Army Ranger and what kind of skirmishes you might have gotten into?
Well, my first skirmish was on the Iran rescue mission into Iran to rescue the hostages. That failed. And let me give you a disclaimer: wasn't my fault, so don't blame me.
Okay. So this is during the Reagan era or the Jimmy Carter?
Jimmy Carter.
Jimmy Carter. Okay.
Jimmy Carter.
You were part of the attempt
Yes.
to get them out that time.
Yes.
Wow.
Unbelievable. That is
Wow.
incredible.
Yes.
What happened? What went wrong, if I can ask, if they'll let you even answer this question?
Wow, that's great.
What went wrong there? Because honestly, from what I remember, that cost Carter any shot of re-election. I mean, what went down?
Well, there was a couple of things that went down. Our job was to fly from the Mediterranean all the way up through the valley. We landed out in the desert 75 miles from Tehran, Iran. And we had these little helicopters inside the airplanes. We pull them out, put the blades up on them, and we were going to fly to Tehran, come down, go into the building, rescue the hostages. Well, once we landed out there, they're trying to move the airplanes over to get the helicopter. And one of the airplanes ran into a helicopter and it blew up. And so they told us, we got to get back out here. We got to go. And, Rangers' mission is mission before man. We still got enough. Let's go do the mission. But at this time, things wasn't coordinated because you had Army pilots flying Navy helicopters, and you had a Navy admiral that was over the whole operation who knew nothing about what we do. As Ranger Special Operations, he knew nothing. So they just aborted the mission, and we left the bodies there. And when we get back to the United States, you can see on the news they dragging burnt bodies through the streets of Tehran.
Yep, I remember that. Yeah.
And so we learned a lot of lessons from that. that's when they start forming JSOC, Joint Operation Task Force and all that stuff, and try to coordinate things a little bit better between the different branches of service. And then in '83, I fought in Grenada. Matter of fact, let me give you a little history on the Grenada.
Yeah.
October the 25th, 1983, we parachuted in on the island of Grenada. It was the lowest military parachute jump in history. I was the 5th person to parachute in on the
That was a
island.
500-foot dropper.
500
Right.
foot.
Right.
That's pretty low. But after I jumped out of the plane and the bullets was flying by, I'm like, maybe we could have done this at 250.
That 500 was a little too high for you, huh? Make it like maybe 20 feet?
Yeah.
What is the parachute? Forget the parachute. Got the line. Jump! Wow.
And
Wow.
the thing is, when I got out and my parachute opened, it was twisted, and I got it untangled, and there was red and green tracers flying by. Now, they could have been 10 feet away. They could have been 100 feet away because you don't have any depth perception,
Sure.
anything to measure it against. I just saw green and red tracers flying by my head, and I did like any red-blooded American would do. I went, Jesus Christ!
There you go.
I grabbed my head, and when I grabbed my head, I looked. The runway is coming up, and I hit the runway. I landed on the runway.
Wow.
So anyway, I did that, and then in '84, I was in El Salvador. We wasn't there, but
I got you.
yeah. So we was there, but we wasn't there.
Pay no attention to them kids over there.
Yeah.
Okay, I
and,
got you.
and that's the thing that y'all heard about the Iran Contra scandal with Oliver North.
Sure.
Well, he would come down, and our job was to train the Contras against the Sandinistas, Nicaraguans, and we would go out and we'd get in a firefight with them, and like it was just crazy. It was crazy. So right after that, like I got out of the Army, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching the news one day, and they had Oliver North at the Senate hearing, and they was grilling him. I'm like, man, they grilling him, and they asking him about, he spent something like $15,000 on a security system at his house. They said, why did you spend this money? He said, this is the first time you ever hear this. He said, well, there's this guy named Osama bin Laden. He wants to kill me. They like, Osama bin, we never heard of this guy. You're making this. We don't know this guy.
Foreshadowing.
That was the first time you ever hear the name Osama bin Laden.
Wow.
Right.
Is at that Senate hearing,
Right.
because he wanted to kill Oliver North.
Am I supposed to take over now?
Yeah.
Because
You
I don't
get
know.
your
Did you
script
ever?
together,
Did you
right?
ever ask him this
All right,
part
so-
though?
okay,
What are you
let's break into
talking
this.
about? We don't. Those questions got skipped.
There you go, buddy.
And I'm supposed to know where we are.
I put the script together in
He
order, and
skipped
it's
over-
still
he
out of
skipped-
control.
He skipped over all. Wait a minute.
No, I didn't skip
that was a
over
good
it.
question you skipped over. Anyway, where are we? How did you get into pro wrestling? We are talking on bars and drop kicks.
Why, asking about how we got into pro wrestling?
That's
Is it
not
awkward?
exciting. How did you get into pro wrestling?
It's pretty
Did you like it
exciting,
as a
thank
kid?
you.
You guys are crazy. And you know what?
He knows us.
I love it.
Thank you.
I love it.
Seriously, where does it all start for you?
Well, it all started when I was in the second grade,
Second grade.
and a teacher was asking everybody. Now, second grade, 1965.
All right.
Okay, everybody wanted to be astronauts or firemen.
Yeah.
And they asked me what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a pro wrestler.
Wow.
And our teacher, this is so profound, and you guys can use this, and I'm not going to charge you for this, okay?
Not going to charge?
All right.
Okay, this is on the house.
This is exclusive.
This is an exclusive right
So,
here.
wait. Honesty is very important now, Mr. Ross. If you say this comment, I will record it, and then I will search every frigging interview you've ever done in your entire life. And I will personally find your number and say, you lied to me or you told me the truth.
It's a semi-exclusive. Go ahead.
Oh, you're giving him a break. You're giving him a pass. All right, go ahead.
Of course I
Sorry.
am.
She said that if you say you want to do something, that's a dream. If you write it down, it becomes a goal.
Okay.
Very good.
I still have the piece of paper where I wrote it on,
That's great.
that I wanted to be a pro wrestler.
Nice. Now,
So you tell your kids, if you ask them what they want to be, and they say they want to be a doctor, make them write it down. It becomes a goal. So that's exclusive. You heard it here first. There was a guy a little later in life. His name was Les Thornton. He was a man of 1,000 holes.
Oh my God, love it.
Hey, I would watch him. I would study him because he was very technical. I mean, he could. You get him in a hole. Every hole you had, he had a counter, and I love that.
So let me ask you this: as a Black American who grew up wanting to be a wrestler, and at that time, let's be honest, wrestling was a white man's sport, right?
Yeah.
Was it hard for you to identify, or did you not gravitate towards like a Thunderbolt Patterson or anything like that?
I didn't understand color. Color to me belonged in a crayon box.
There you go.
I had no concept.
There you go.
Even though I was raised, when I was growing up, there was bathrooms that was for whites only. It was segregated when I was growing up. As a matter of fact, I went to all-black school until I was in the 4th grade, and then they integrated the schools like 1967, 68. They integrated the school. I mean, we did nothing together. I mean, you know, but when they integrated the schools, kids don't have any concept of racial stuff. It's a learned thing. So you take kids, black, white, and you put them all together, they have no idea this kid is black, this is white. I'm not supposed to like you because of this and that. They don't have all of that built-in preconception.
Wow.
You know, so I had no idea that most of the people I was watching at that time was white. I just knew it was wrestling. I used to watch football. I had no idea this guy's black. It's football.
Right.
So
I do wish my team was black though, because that green color we suck for the last.
We should leave the Jets alone. What the?
Rule in football, any sports, you wear green, you suck. End of story. Right? That's right.
What? No. What are the Green Bay Packers?
Yeah, but that's
pretty green.
that is kind
What are you talking about? Leave the Jets out of this anyway. I'm trying to get better, not sicker. What's wrong with you? Holy Zach Wilson. Ugh.
oh god.
I'm telling you, I really can't. By the way, you sounded like a very normal second grader, by the way. The colors is a crayon box.
Yeah.
The end. That's what a second grader should think. By the way, how strange was it when you did have integration? This is the 1960s. What was that like? Was it really that seamless when blacks and whites were put together in school?
And you got to understand, I'm in the South.
Yeah.
I'm down in Georgia.
Yeah.
And when we finally went to school together, my best, I mean,
What was that like?
It was just like, I could tell you what it was. It was a little bit frightening, not because of the color of their skin or
Okay.
anything. It was a little frightening because they was way ahead of us.
Meaning?
As far as knowledge, books,
Okay.
and stuff like that.
Okay.
We were a little bit behind them. Their curriculum was a little bit more advanced than ours, and so when I got there, I had to try to catch up because what they was learning, we hadn't gotten to that part yet.
Interesting. That's interesting.
And so that was the only part that was a little different for me. It was, because when I left the all black school and we go to when I left the black school, I was like ahead of the class. I was like the top guy in the class. And I go over there, I'm at the bottom
Right.
because, man, they were way ahead of us.
So then when was the first time that you realized that there was racism in the United States? Like, when was your first experience with racism?
Actually, I never experienced any racism in my little small town. I'm in a little small town called Ackworth, Georgia. Once they integrated everything was fine. I mean, my best friend was a white guy, and we grew up. We played together. We never had any issues.
What is he from? The East Northport of Georgia?
I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds really nice.
We
you
never
know?
had any issues.
Right.
The first time I personally experienced some racism, you're not going to believe this, was when I got into wrestling.
That's what I was going to add. Well, that's where I was going to go. Like, now
Good old wrestling.
you're coming in. So tell us about that.
But
Like, what was your
wrestling's so
first
wholesome. What are you talking about?
What was your first experience?
Ruin this for the internet nerds.
My first experience was that I trained. I was in the Army, and I'm at the point now. I had 7 years in. I had one more year to go, and I had to make a decision. I'm going to stay in for 20 years. I'm going to get out and chase my
Which,
goal.
by the way, is a very tough decision, right? Because you're so used to that lifestyle. I went through the same thing. It's like, they like sign up, go back on. You're like, if I do this, this is going to be my life now. This next signature. So go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
So I'm at 8 years. I either stay in or get out, and I said, I got to chase my goal, my dream. And so I went ahead and I went to a wrestling match in Savannah Civic Center, and I go down and I talk to Pistol Pez Watley.
Yes.
And I told him I wanted to get into wrestling. I'm in the Army and getting ready to get out. And he told me about Thunderbolt Patterson was opening a wrestling school in Atlanta, told me how to contact him. So one weekend I went up, met Thunderbolt Patterson. He agreed to train me. And I said, okay, I'll be back in a week. Went back, took a 30-day vacation. Went back to Atlanta, trained with Thunderbolt Patterson for 30 days, and I said, okay.
So you're hedging both bets then. You said, I'm going to try this, and if it doesn't work, I'm re-upping.
Yes.
Okay, I got you.
Hey, you can't put all your eggs in one basket.
Smart man.
So I said, okay, I'm going to do this. And so I went back to the Army, and I ETS, got out of the Army, went back, trained with Thunderbolt for a little bit, and went down to the Omni. They was wrestling down there, and I met David Crockett, and I told him, I've been trained by Thunderbolt Patterson. He said, well, we have a guy that we send all of our talent to check them out, see if they, up to par. His name was Nelson Royal. So I drove up to North Carolina, met Nelson Royal, trained with him, and Gene Anderson's son, and Todd Champion. So we trained, and Nelson Royal told him, hey, look, this kid's ready. So I drive back down to Charlotte, go to the Jim Crockett promotion, and I'm like, hey, I want to get a job.
No, I want to make this clear, though. You're jumping straight into wrestling, into the number 2 organization in the world of wrestling. There's no independence. There's nothing. It's like, boom, NWA, here he is.
I'm ready.
Wow.
I'm ready. And I go there, and this is what they told me. I said, well, Nelson called you, said I'm ready, and they said, yeah, but we already have a black guy.
Went. What the freak?
Like you can't have two.
You can't have
They had a
two,
guy.
bro.
His name was Joe Coltrane. He was a black guy.
Okay.
And he had just started with them, and they was giving him a push. And
Wait a
they
minute,
told me they already
Who told you that, though? Who said we already have a black guy? Do you remember?
I'm trying to remember
Was
who
it
it
an
was.
Anderson?
Was it Ole?
Was it an Anderson?
No, it wasn't Ole.
It wasn't Ole.
It wasn't Ole. If I was a betting man, and
It wasn't Flair. What did he? He didn't like say that and go woo after or something. I
No,
can see Flair
no.
doing that.
It was somebody at the office, and I
Wow.
can't remember who it was. But one of the guys had a suit on. I don't know who it was. And they told me, yeah, we already have a black guy.
So what do you do with that? Where do you go from there? What happens next?
I left. I went back home to Atlanta, and
And you're like, I should have re-upped.
well,
Over
I heard about
there.
this guy named Ted Allen
Okay.
out of Cartersville,
Yeah.
and he was training people, and I went up and met him, and he saw me work a little bit. He took me to Alabama to a show, and trying to get me on, and then he introduced me to Jody Hamilton, who owned Deep South Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jody gave me a break, and he told me to come down to his school. Went down at his school, and he said, okay, kid, I want you to be at the Cobb Civic Center on Sunday. We're going to put you on. So they started
And your
me out.
instant gimmick, Ranger Ross.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
very
I
awesome.
I come up with that,
That's
because
awesome.
when you're in the Army and you go to Ranger School, whatever your last name is, they call you Ranger Johnson,
Yeah.
Ranger Monty, whatever.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So Ranger Ross it just kind
Ranger
of stuck.
Farrow?
Ranger Farrell. There you
Sounds
go.
ridiculous.
In February 1996, you were arrested for bank robbery as the motorcycle bandit. Can you tell us what happened with that?
In 1994, going through a divorce, had a small child involved, and paying child support, doing everything I'm supposed to do. And so the neat thing about it, my wife and I, we sat down and like, look, we're not going to make this a messy divorce. We started out like folks, we're going to end like folks. So we wrote down everything that we wanted. You know, she was going to get this, I was going to get this, I was going to keep the house and all this. I was going to pay like $400 a month, child support for the daycare and all that stuff. So we're going to have joint custody. And she said, you're going to get a lawyer? I said, I don't need a lawyer. Just take all of this that we wrote down, give it to your lawyer, and I'll just sign it and we'll be done. So I go over to her house and give her the child support money. And she said, this is not enough. I was like, what do you mean? She said, well, my lawyer said that I can get more than this. It's like, what are you talking about? She said, my lawyer said I can get $750 a month. I'm like, wait a minute. I took on all of the bills. I took on the debt of the house. I took on the child support and all of this stuff. And you want me to give you $750 a month and then take on all of the debt and the house and everything? I said, no. So then I had to go get a lawyer. And then so I went through my savings. I spent about $48,000 on lawyers. So I was at the point where I'm out of money. So I could have went to probably 10 friends and just asked them, hey, look, dude, I need to borrow about 10 grand or something like that. And I didn't. Let me tell you what that is. That's foolish pride. And I'm going to tell you something right now. If you got any foolish pride in you, you need to get rid of it. Because it caused me to do one of the most stupidest things that anybody could do. And instead of me just swallowing my pride and asking somebody for help, I just waited and waited. The debt started piling up. And I'm frustrated, about to lose my child and all of that. And so I just thought of this crazy idea. Where can I get some money? Oh, the bank. That's where the money is at. So I went and I robbed the bank. And I felt so bad about it. I turned myself in. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, I knew that.
But I turned myself in. And I ended up going to prison for that. But you know what? The thing that should have been the worst thing that happened in my life turned out to be one of the best things that happened in my life. Because it should have been bad, but it turned out good. I went to college, got a degree, learned a trade, got out, went into ministry, and my whole life changed. I made back what I lost and even gained more. So I'm in a great position right now.
You didn't even have a weapon on you when you held up that bank.
No,
Is that true?
no.
What'd you do? Put your finger through your shirt? I mean, how do you get them to give you the money? I don't want to make a joke of it, but seriously, how'd you do this?
You just put your hand in your pocket and say, "Hey, look, give me the money," and they're trained to give you the money.
Okay.
So that's all you got to do.
So when you're at home, you know, you have the money and you can't concentrate. You're like, I just can't do this. Can you tell us like how it felt making that decision to turn yourself in? That had to be such, because now you're gonna miss your child's.
Had you gotten away with it? Basically, if you didn't turn yourself in, did you get away with this?
Yeah.
Wow. The motorcycle.
Well, you know, the thing is that
conscience.
Amazing.
I got to tell you this. Before all of this happened, I had a calling to go into ministry, and I was like, you know, God, I think you got the wrong guy.
You got the wrong
You
guy.
got the wrong. You got the right plan, but the wrong man. And I was like, no.
Okay.
And I fought it. Matter of fact, I went to church one day, and I went down. They asked anybody went, and I just could not stop crying. I was just boo-hoo, and everybody like, man, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And I knew I had that calling, and I was running from it.
DiBiase's a preacher too. You're a preacher. Does that, being an ex-professional wrestler, does that help you preaching to people, or does it hurt you?
No, it's people can understand, like, okay, this guy's been through something. Everybody has a testimony. You know, you've been through some stuff in your life. I haven't met a person yet that hadn't been through something.
I'm next to this guy all the time. That's my testimony.
Oi.
So all of that stuff, you know what Thunderbolt Patterson used to tell me all the time? And he said, Ross, it took all of that to make all of this. It took everything I went through in my life to make me who I am today. It took everything that you went through your life, good, bad, and indifference, to make you who you are.
Right.
And so I have a platform. I have a platform that I was, military, Army Ranger, 253 parachute jumps.
Wow.
Combat 3 times. Professional wrestler. I have a platform. And so when I speak, I come from this platform.
Name a few wrestlers. I want to get your thoughts on them. But first, I just want to get one question. I thought this was interesting. One thing about your matches I noticed, did you purposely not allow them to, you never would ever get a chance to take your jacket off? You're always getting attacked, and they always, you always had your jacket on every match. Was that you're hey, I want to keep the Ranger jacket on? What was that all about? I got to know.
And how do you do hip tosses with that jacket on?
Well, if I was wrestling somebody that, going to have some heat, they would attack me, as soon as I turned my back to, So if it was just a regular match, didn't have a conflict with this person, the jacket
came off.
But I would get confused, though, because I'd say he's an Army Ranger. How did he keep getting him from behind? There's no way there's an Army Ranger. You don't sneak up on an Army Ranger. What's going on? Who wrote that? It was probably Jim Hurd. We're going to make you...
Michael P.S. Hayes.
Oh, my God. Man, I love that guy. I loved it, man. But he was just funny. He was just funny. And he was just funny. He was just every time I think about Hayes, I just start laughing.
He likes to be peed on. He's a little strange.
I don't know about that part
Jim Ross.
Jim Ross. Let me tell you something. The guy was very, very good on the mic. Very good. I mean, he would talk about stuff and it was believable. The things that he was talking about. So Jim Ross, me and him, we was good.
Tony Schiavone.
One of the greatest voices in professional wrestling. I mean, I could sit and listen to anything he said. If he was reading Mary Had a Little Lamb, I'm going to listen.
All right, who's better, Ross or Schiavone?
I'll take Schiavone.
Wow. Look at that.
Tony Schiavone's underrated.
I
think he's underrated. I think Tony Schiavone's a great announcer.
Great announcer.
Still side with Ross a little bit.
Who's the greatest announcer of all time?
Oh,
Gordon Soley.
Thank you. There we go.
Gordon Soley.
That's it. Yeah, that works for us.